Hi, today I will be presenting our paper entitled A Project-Based Internship Approach to Bioinformatics Education by myself, Dominic Albao, and together with my colleagues at the Philippine Genome Center. Next-generation sequencing and other high-throughput technologies are disrupting how we do biology research today. For example, take a look at this chart comparing the amount of information deposited in the GenBank database to the data we've produced from NGS. In under 2 decades, we have collected much more data from next-generation sequencing than we've amassed through traditional techniques since 1980. These developments are interdisciplinary and not limited to a single field. Here at the Philippine Genome Center, NGS has been instrumental in identifying Filipino-specific colorectal cancer mutations, analyzing shrimp pathogens, and the identification of pharmacologically active compounds from marine snails. These developments are changing how we do biology research. With NGS, the bulk of the workload has shifted from laboratory experiments to data analysis. In fact, data is produced at a much faster rate than can be analyzed, leading to the abundance of unanalyzed data in genome centers across the globe. This has increased the demand for trained bioinformaticians with the proficiency to analyze genomic data. However, bioinformaticians are hard to find and even harder to train. Being a bioinformatician entails cross-disciplinary knowledge in molecular biology, statistics, computer science, and mathematics. Take this proposed bioinformatics curriculum by Welch, which requires courses in a wide range of disciplines. As well, training current life and computational scientists to be bioinformaticians is difficult. Life scientists have minimal backgrounds and are averse in topics in computation. The same can be said about computer scientists and biology. This is why we have developed the IMBUE Program, short for the Internship Program for Bioinformatics Utility and Expertise. There have been previous efforts to tackling bioinformatics education. Most of these efforts were either short-term workshops, such as by Emery and Morgan in 2017, and Brazos and Ouellet in 2016. Other approaches were through the development of an undergraduate course by Madlong in 2018. However, short-term workshops are not sufficient enough to give adequate experience to bioinformatics analysis, while a full semester course may not be a feasible option for some early career scientists. As well, these trainings were catered to life scientists and not to individuals with a computational background. We envision the IMBUE program to be a medium-term, 6-week program to introduce life and computational scientists to bioinformatics. This program combines traditional classroom lectures to teach bioinformatics theory with project-based learning to teach bioinformatics practice. We've implemented this program in 4 batches over the course of 2019 to 2020. Today, I will be talking about the insights we've gained from the first 2 batches conducted last June to July 2019 and August to September 2019. The 6-week internship period is split into 2 phases, as shown by this schedule of activities. In the first 2 weeks, the interns take lecture modules in topics relevant to bioinformatics. The next 4 weeks are devoted to independent research in a topic in bioinformatics. We developed 3 lecture modules in biology topics relevant to bioinformatics analysis. These modules were designed in order to give computational scientists a background in biology. The first module is in molecular biology and biochemistry in order to give an introduction to basic concepts of the central dogma. The next is a lecture module on population genetics in order to introduce concepts needed for genome-wide association studies. Lastly, there is a module in methods in genomics in order to introduce the interns to next-generation sequencing technologies. We also developed 4 lecture modules in computation, designed to give life scientists a crash course. The first is a module in statistics and probability theory to give adequate statistical background. Then a module in bioinformatics algorithms in order to give understanding on the workings of common analysis. Then a module in computer programming to teach basic scripting. And finally, a synthesis of the lecture module series, a module on basic bioinformatics analysis, which includes lectures on variant calling and genome assembly. These lecture modules were designed to be taught in the course of a day, except for the module in methods in genomics, and bioinformatics algorithms, which were designed to be 3 hours long. These modules were assessed using objective multiple choice tests administered before and after the modules. Here we show module assessments for the first batch. We find that implementation of the lecture modules resulted in knowledge gain across all modules, except for the module in statistics and probability due to an error in implementation. We also did not start implementing the algorithms in bioinformatics module in this batch. Comparing biologists and computational scientists, we find that biologists have more pre-existing knowledge in population genetics, while computational scientists have more pre-existing knowledge in programming, as expected. However, implementation of these modules abrogated differences between both cohorts. The same can be said for the modules in the second batch. We also show knowledge gain in the statistics and probability and bioinformatics algorithms module. We also measured knowledge retention. An entrance exam testing concepts from the 6 modules was administered at the start of the internship and then re-administered as an exit exam at the end of the 6 weeks. We found significant knowledge retention across the 2 batches. After the lecture modules began the project phase of the internship, interns were presented a selection of active research projects on the 8th day. Once assigned, the interns worked on their respective research projects with weekly reports to assess progress. The interns are divided into groups of 2 to 3. The project assignments were based on the interns' backgrounds and research interests. Each group is assigned a research mentor to oversee research progress. The interns work on their projects with minimal supervision and are encouraged to formulate and test their own hypotheses. The research projects we assign cover a wide variety of topics reflecting the interests and backgrounds of the interns. Some projects did not even involve genomics. These projects are open and active research projects by staff of the Philippine Genome Center and its institutional partners. Shown here are the projects assigned to the first batch. Some of these included the use of machine learning in T-cell epitope prediction, the tracing of human mobility in Southeast Asia using ancient chicken DNA, and a development of a tool for assessing variants from cancer genomes. The project phase of the internship has been a productive experience for both our interns and our institutional partners. The level of completion of the projects exceeded our expectations and those of our partners. In fact, some of the projects have been presented in international and local conferences, and others are being prepared for publication. Let me share to you some of the insights we've gained in the implementation of the IMBUE program. Our cohorts were a mix of undergraduates and professionals from the life and computational sciences. We find that undergraduates and professionals did not significantly differ in the assessments, suggesting that they can be treated equally. We also found that biologists had more pre-existing knowledge in genetics, while computational scientists had more pre-existing knowledge in programming, to be expected. However, we were surprised to find no difference in pre-existing knowledge in molecular biology and biochemistry, and we believe that this reflects the lack of emphasis on molecular biology in college biology courses in the Philippines, which is more focused on macrobiology topics. We also found that implementation of assessments had an overall positive effect on learning. Pre-assessment tests served as a guide for the interns on which topics are important during the course of the modules. This form of self-regulation allowed them to absorb the materials more readily. We also found that interns, especially from the computational cohort, wanted more rigorous training in the computer sciences, and hence we implemented the algorithms in bioinformatics module starting the second batch. While biologists reported significant knowledge gain after the programming module, as well as knowledge retention in programming, this did not translate to confidence in programming skills among biologists in the first batch. This was reflected as a major theme in the focus group discussion from that batch. We believe that this is due to programming being a skill rather than a set of topics to be memorized. This also suggested to us that the projects themselves were not adequate in practicing programming skills, as not all projects required the use of intensive coding. To rectify this, in the second batch, we implemented interventions in the form of weekly programming exercises, which we required the interns to submit. This resulted in increased confidence in programming ability among biologists of the second batch. One of the important arguments as to why the internship should be implemented with a mixed cohort of life and computational scientists is the additional value that the interns themselves bring to the program. Due to their varied backgrounds, interns learned not only from the program facilitators, but also from each other. Their skill sets ultimately complemented one another. This has resulted in a positive learning environment throughout the internship. As well, one of the greatest challenges in Philippine education is the disparity of quality of education in the capital and the provinces. Coming into the program, interns from the provinces felt inferior to their counterparts from Metro Manila. However, the positive learning environment allowed them to overcome this. To conclude, we present a strategy for medium-term bioinformatics training, combining classroom-based lectures with project-based learning. We envision this program as a model for graduate and professional level bioinformatics training that compromises between short-term training workshops and long-term university courses. The IMBUE program was funded by the Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology Research and Development. This funding allowed us to give our interns stipends for the duration of the internship. Thank you very much for listening.